Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today we're talking about Microsoft Power Platform and AI, modernizing existing solutions. One theme we see all the time from our customers is that in many cases they already own and more capability than they realize and are using. When a new challenge shows up, the fix usually isn't a new system, it's a closer look at the ones you already have. We have worked with many customers that have a new need and they didn't just go out and buy a new solution, they looked internally on what they own. And that typically is their existing Dynamics or Power Platform solutions just need to be configured to handle the new need. In our blog this month, we mentioned a few examples of real-world use cases where the customer just modified their existing solutions to provide additional solutions and benefits to enable self-serve Power Page portals and agents. With that, I'm honored to introduce some of the folks that will make these new solutions possible. Mike Dunmeyer and Jimmy Briggs are two of those folks, and we have them both on the program today. Mike Dunmeyer is a business solutions architect in our Power Platform and Dynamics team at Planet, and he has over 15 years experience at Planet, and prior to that, 11 years with the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney Generals. And he has scoped and built many solutions for the states we talk with, and federal agencies and commercial customers. You may remember Michael if you've attended some of our You Already Own It workshops. Most recently, he presented on this program in January for why organizations choose Microsoft Power Platform, integration, security, and AI-driven value. Next up, we got Jimmy Briggs, and he is a Dynamics 365 Power Apps architect at Planet with more than 16 years of experience managing, customizing, and developing Power Platform and Dynamic solutions. He's a published author and a regular on the You Already Own It program covering our yearly Microsoft Build and Ignite updates that we do in December. Also, he did the Getting Started with Power Pages and Copilot Studio for GCC High. Thanks, Jimmy and Michael, for joining us on the program today. We're so glad to have you back on the program. Lastly, I would like to mention that Wendy Renfro is also one of our cloud strategists. She's going to be on the call, and she's going to help us answer some questions in the chat. So welcome, Wendy. And welcome all of you. For more information about today's program, make sure you check out our links at the end of this presentation and the blog that I mentioned on this topic that was posted last week. We have had a few questions already in advance about what is available in commercial GCC and GCC High, so we'll get to those during the time we talk about questions. And for that, we'll also provide you a reference link at the very end, since this information changes monthly. So let's go ahead and get started. First up, as we always do, we would love to do an anonymous poll. We won't spend too much time on here, but you're going to see it launched here in a second. There you go. We would love to know if AI could eliminate one part of your existing application process, what would provide the greatest value? We'd love to hear your answers. Please submit them. Again, they're all anonymous, so no reason not to. All right. So for today's agenda, Michael will start with why should we modernize now and where your apps and flows fall short possibly. Then we'll get into Copilot Studio and what it can offer your apps and how it can be a game changer by supercharging them with AI. Finally, we'll cover governance, security, and ROI. Then Jimmy's going to take us on a tour of his demo lab, and he's going to show us a real use case that he's built for case management and agent summary conversation. And then we'll also follow up after that, go back to the presentation deck. We'll show you some capabilities of the customer constituent portal agent that Jimmy's been talking about and working on. And of course, we will leave some time and answer the questions that we mentioned that were sent in advance. So please stick around to the end because I am sure you will find this discussion engaging. So Mike, it seems like weekly you and I are having conversations and discussions with many, many state agencies specifically. Can you give us some insight on how Power Platform and AI work together to create incredible efficiencies and enable more customers that are already using, more customers to do more with what their customers are using Power Platform and Dynamics with? Mike?
Yeah, Ken. So not just state agencies, we see this a lot with commercial customers as well. But these organizations have invested significant time and resources into building Power Apps and Power Automate workflows and digital processes to replace manual work. And the good news is that AI modernization doesn't require starting over. So in most cases, the fastest path to value is just enhancing the solutions that already work. So rather than rebuilding your applications, your organization can incrementally improve by adding AI capabilities that help users find information faster, summarize complex records, automate repetitive tasks and make better decisions. And just taking a note, looking at the poll results here right now, 42% is answering questions, and I see that a lot, answering questions for customers. So good topic there. The most successful AI initiatives generally start with business outcomes, not technology, or at least they should. So instead of asking where can we add AI, you should be asking where are users spending too much time reading and searching and typing and making routine decisions. The objective isn't to reduce effort. It's or to improve visibility, accelerate processes and create a better user experience. So when we approach it that way, looking at AI as a tool, it becomes a practical tool for solving real business problems rather than just another feature. So AI is most effective when it's built on top of strong processes and quality data, and becomes an ROI multiplier. Your organization can already use Power Platform, or I'm sorry, that's already using, excuse me, Power Platform. They have a tremendous advantage because they're already building and using these applications and data and business processes that provide the foundation that AI needs to deliver the additional value. So by combining all of these different tools within a Power Platform, your organization can make your application smarter, help your employees and your constituents and your customers, for that matter, work more efficiently and significantly increase the return on the solutions that you've already built.
Yeah, so getting, obviously look back at the poll again, right? I get why people are looking for answering questions from users and customers and constituents. I'm surprised automating data entry wasn't higher, because so many times that data integrity is not great, at least in legacy systems, and automating data entry is definitely one use case we see over and over again, and it's definitely in state government, but I'm sure other use cases as well. So one other thing about this slide here, very interesting to note, if you haven't noticed and you're like, what are these? Some of these icons don't look familiar. Some of them have been updated recently. So these are the latest updates on the icons in case you're confused. I put the names under them, so make sure you understand what the new icons look like. But these are the actual latest and greatest updates to the icons. So with that, Mike, what are some of the changes that with traditional apps, and what are some of the changes with traditional apps and flows that we can look at here?
Yeah,
What
so
are some of the problems? I'm sorry.
yeah, gotcha. So yeah, so we're gonna this slide's problem, and the next slide we're gonna talk about, well, what's the solution? So the challenges that we see here and that we still encounter, that traditional applications and workflows, they're designed around processes and predefined screens and predefined fields and paths. So applications expect users to navigate through multiple tabs and screens and find the information, while the workflows follow a fixed sequence of steps. And then they work well until if everything happens the way it's expected, as one of my customers referred to as the sunny day path. But business doesn't always work that way. And especially in processes where there are a lot of edge cases that can be encountered. So these scenarios then create friction for users and your employees and your customers and your constituents. They end up spending less time making decisions or working with data within an application, and more time searching for the information and reviewing records and switching between screens and manually piecing together the context that they're looking for to do their job. So even small deviations from these expected processes can require additional effort and workarounds and involvement by somebody else who has more experience or may know something about the process. And in the end, the result is that the technology becomes part of the work. It's not just the tool anymore, it's part of the work. So instead of helping users, it generates more work for them. It's not as helpful. So the real cost just isn't in building and maintaining these applications in itself. The cost is the time and effort also required to unlock the value hidden within the application. And that's where AI changes the equation. The line here, instead of forcing users to adapt to the application, AI helps the application adapt to the user. And this is by bringing relevant information and insights and recommendations directly to them when they need it. And this is how organizations move from systems that simply store information to systems that actively help users work smarter and faster.
That totally makes sense. So, Mike, how can our customers leverage Copilot Studio and AI to supercharge their apps?
Yeah, so when we think about Copilot Studio, and if you've been on one of my You Already Own It sessions for Power Platform, we it says right in there, Copilot Studio, it's chatbots. That's what a lot of us think when we think about Copilot Studio. Or if you've heard previous name, Power Virtual Agents was the older name for the tool. But that's a narrow view. It's not just chatbots. So Copilot Studio can be the intelligence layer that sits on top of these applications and interacts with the application, the data, and the processes that you already have. So your Power Apps, your Dataverse tables, Power Automate workflows, and even outside of the Power Platform with things like SharePoint content and other business systems that you already have that contain this valuable information. So Copilot Studio brings those assets together, enables users to interact with them in a more natural and intuitive way. So Copilot Studio changes the traditional experience by turning structured applications into conversational experiences. Instead of filling out a form, users can describe what they need. And instead of searching through multiple records, users can ask questions. Instead of manually piecing together information from several sources, they can receive summaries, recommendations, next steps presented in the context that they need. The applications still exist. The applications and workflows still exist, but the interaction model becomes far more natural and user centric. And Jimmy's going to actually demonstrate a few of these scenarios today. So rather than forcing people to understand the software, we can train the software to better understand the people. And then the users, again, for government agencies, your constituents, for commercial customers, your customers, be able to communicate with these systems and this data in a more natural language and reason across data and processes, business rules to help accomplish the objectives more efficiently. So, kind of in summary, Copilot Studio is not about replacing your Power Platform investment. It's a tool within the Power Platform that allows you to make your investment smarter. Um, by providing reasoning, conversational interaction, decision supported capabilities, and transforming existing applications from systems that just simply store data into information systems that actively assist users with better user experience, faster access to the information, fewer manual steps, and a more intelligent way of working across the solutions that you already own. So I have a couple of real world examples here we can kind of talk about. So let's start with Power Apps. So most applications today, they do a good job or a great job of storing and displaying information, but they still rely heavily on users to interpret the information, decide what to do next, to navigate between fields, filter large data sets, search through records, review notes, and manually enter data into forms is time consuming. Uh, the application contains the information that they need in most cases, but extracting that meaning from the information still requires time and effort from the user. So we can use AI to change that experience by helping users understand information instead of simply displaying it. And rather scrolling through dozens of records or files, we can use a Copilot agent to summarize a record, identify important changes, highlight risks, answer questions in a natural language. And instead of requiring users to repeatedly enter information across multiple forms, we can use AI to suggest or populate values based on context and previous activity. So the goal is not to replace the application, the goal is to reduce the effort required to use the application effectively. Power Automate follows a very, very similar evolution. So you know, uh, if you're not familiar, Power Automate is the workflow engine that's part of the Power Platform. Generally, these two are tied together. You can use Power Apps and Power Automate without each other, but they're generally tied together. So it does follow a similar evolution. Traditional automations are extremely powerful, but they're also very structured. So, like a workflow is designed around a specific set of rules and expectations. For example, if an email arrives, in an unexpected format and a value doesn't match the expected pattern, or an external application changes its interface, and it may fail. And then the IT team is left to, it's on them to take the time to find, what's going on, update the workflows, update the applications to accommodate all of these different variations, other than focusing on delivering business value. And this with using with AI with Copilot Studio, it introduces adaptability into the automation process. So instead of requiring every possible scenario to be explicitly programmed, we can use AI-powered agents that can understand context and interpret variations and make decisions when conditions are not exactly what was expected. The agents and generative reasoning allow the automation to work with screens and documents, and a system that may not always present information in a consistent format. Rather than failing when something changes, the automation can often adapt and continue moving the process forward. So, from a business perspective, this means that workflows can become more resilient and require less ongoing maintenance. Organizations can automate more complex processes that were previously too unpredictable for traditional automation. And IT teams then can spend less time troubleshooting and fixing and updating workflows, while the business users then obviously get the benefit of a more reliable interaction and end-to-end process. So instead of simply automating repetitive tasks, organizations can begin automating decision making and exception handling, creating much more intelligent and adaptable operating model. Just one last thought on that. There at the bottom, you can see apps that assist workflows that adapt, not rebuild. So AI enhanced Power Apps and Power Automate workflows is starting to represent a shift from systems that require constant user effort to systems that actively assist users. And applications can become more insight driven instead of data entry driven. Workflows can become more adaptive instead of rigid. And this is where your organization can begin to see the real value of AI modernization, not by replacing existing investments, but by making those investments significantly smarter and more effective.
Totally makes sense. Appreciate that, Mike. So I just want to remind everybody right now, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat window. We'd love to get some questions as well for our question and answer period, or we can even answer them on the fly. So please put them in the chat window if you've got them. Now, my favorite next topic, Mike, is governance and return on investment. Talk to us a little bit about these things.
Yeah, so we hear all kinds of questions all the time, and it's not just about like AI or Copilot Studio. It's all kinds of questions about everything in the Power Platform, but specifically questions here for the scope of this call with Power Platform and Copilot Studio. Two of the biggest questions that we hear is, can we do this securely, and do we need to start over? And we kind of took all that and boiled it down into two main topics here around governance and return on investment. So as far as governance, your enterprise AI, it has to be secure and auditable, and not just AI, right? Governance is a whole overarching topic for Power Platform, but your organization needs to be confident that this sensitive information remains within a tenant, the data access is controlled, and that the actions can be traced back to a specific user or agent. And Copilot Studio is designed to work within the governance framework that you already have. So it respects your existing Dataverse security model, your user permissions, your business roles, your Microsoft Entra ID controls, and users only see what they're already authorized to see. And the agent operates within the same security boundaries that govern the rest of your Power Platform ecosystem. And then as far as return on investment, this is just as important as the cost and, in regards to time and value. When your organization thinks about AI, AI initiatives, oftentimes it's assumed that you need to start this and launch this large project and build a custom solution or create an entirely new application. And that's just not always the scenario. Some of the highest value AI projects that you can do right now is start by enhancing applications that you already have, that already exist, and provide increased return on investment in those initiatives. And so this is we're on a You Already Own It call. This is where the thought of you already own it, that message really becomes especially relevant because organizations already have the foundation that they need. They have the applications and workflows and the data and the security controls. And by building AI with Copilot Studio allows you to build on those investments rather than replace them or start over. Instead of funding an entirely new platform, you can increase value of the Power Platform investment that you already have that's already implemented by accelerating return on investment while reducing implementation risk.
Yeah. So, on the topic of governance, I know a lot of our customers have implemented the Center of Excellence kit. And for those of you who aren't aware of that, like it's a collection of components and tools that were designed to help get started developing a strategy and adopting Power Platform and supporting Power Platform. It was a whole toolkit. There's been some announcements recently. Can you talk to us a little bit about what those announcements mean now for folks that maybe they have or haven't heard about this yet?
Yeah, so the Power Platform Center of Excellence Toolkit, like Ken said, it was basically a Power Platform solution. You could download, you could install it, set it up in your environment. There were different modules. And it is effectively been archived as of last month, July of last month. So I we do include a link still to the page. It's in our links here at the end of the presentation. And I put that in there because Microsoft has very nicely updated that. It's not just a page now with outdated information about an archive tool. There's actually content in there saying, well, this is a tool that was in the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. Here's its equal in Power Platform Admin Center, which is where most of this functionality resides at now. So make sure you take a look at that link. If you do have the Power Platform Center of Excellence Starter Kit, that doesn't mean you need to stop using it, right? There's still value there. But it has been archived and is no longer supported.
So the good news, I guess, is you don't have to keep updating it anymore. The bad news, and the other good news is that a lot of that functionality has now moved to the Power Platform Admin Center. But again, a lot of folks did spend time customizing that, especially for large organizations where they maybe even deployed it more than once for different or business units or whatever. So no reason to abandon it, but it just a heads up though that it's not being updated anymore, and a lot of that functionality has now moved to the Power Platform Admin Center. And for those of you, if you're just getting started or if you have large organizations with shared services or you're offering services to lots of different business units, if you haven't done governance yet or have that documented, how decisions are going to be made, the whole idea of governance and Power Platform, especially now with agents and environment sprawl and things like that, now is the time to get that done. It's really got to get done before you start moving forward with a lot of this development and Power Platform. Enough said about governance. Let's get to something that's really cool, Mike. Jimmy, I hope you're ready. I think we're going to turn it over to you now, and you can kind of take us on a tour of your lab and talk a little bit about the case agent summary conversation work.
Yeah, absolutely. I can. We did get one comment here in the chat now. Yeah, I'm just going to jump in and try to tackle this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
I think it's definitely something that we can probably grab another resource at Planet that's got more ties into the M365 Copilot chat and chat premium features. And it looks like Wendy got an answer in there too, so she might beat me to it, which is good because this is a little outside Power Platform, I think. Let me see what was just written there. Yep, isolation boundary. I think I was going to land on the same thing to just ask for double check, but they should be the same. There's the work mode, and as long as that's on, and it'll tell you that your data is enterprise data and protected. Usually that's safe, and you don't have to worry too much out of that, regardless of what LLM behind the scene is. But again, that's Copilot Chat, which is different than Copilot Studio and Power Platform. So I'll fall back on Wendy's answer after there, and then if there's more follow-up, I'm sure we can get somebody from the M365 there. But definitely happy to jump in. I am the demo guy, and I'm going to be doing some demos today. I'm also going a little bit. I got a little bit of a bonus part of my demo here in the first part that the rest of the team doesn't know about, but it's very quick. It's just a whiteboard drawing. And I did tell him about it in the morning. I needed a visual. We were talking this morning and Ken's like, that's really good. You should share that with him. And I'm like, I'm sitting here. I'm like, I think I can whiteboard it really quick so they can really visualize it and lock it in.
Awesome.
I kind of, 3 different things I'm going to cover here. One is just, so like three different areas that I'm going to demo pretty quickly. One is extending existing Dynamics apps. And the app I'm showing today is Dynamics 365 for customer engagement. I know that we have a lot of organizations that we work with that use this Dynamics application, so that's why I chose this one for today. But there's a variety of Dynamics apps that are all receiving really great benefits from AI and from Copilot and Copilot Studio agents. And a lot of them, like D365 for sales specifically, and the Dynamics 365 for customer engagement, come with some features baked into them that are kind of ready to go and plug in as soon as your Microsoft tenant and the environment that they're hosted in are both enabled for AI. So what you're looking at right now is the customer service hub as it comes kind of out of the box, and I've loaded it with some dummy data for our demo today. And you might have seen this before where you come into cases and it lists kind of all the different cases that are going on and different information. What makes this installation of the D365 or Dynamics 365 for customer engagement a little bit different is if I click into one of these records, it's been turned on to show the record case summaries here. And so this is Copilot feature that's enabled. And because it's part of Dynamics and the Dynamics product for customer engagement, it doesn't consume the credits as it operates. Anybody that comes into a case, that visits a case record in this Power App, this Dynamics application, will see a case summary, and it'll summarize what's happened on the activity, as well as what's going on with the case. And there's a handy copy button, so you can grab it and throw it into Teams or an email real quick if you need to get information about a specific case off to somebody. So this feature can be turned on in Dynamics 365 customer engagement, but it can also be extended. And there's a little bit under the hood changes that need to happen, but this can be enhanced quite a bit to show a lot more information. When it comes out of the box, it's just going to summarize the activities and what's on the case form. But I'm going to open up another case now that I have pre-staged about this invoice balance. And when I open up this one, we're going to see a little bit more of an enhancement. I'll zoom in my screen so you can really see. I know we're on Teams. Let me zoom out just a little bit. I think I killed it there. But what we see is in this case summary, this related work orders breakout with a link to the work order that's related to the case and a summary of what's happening on this record. And there could be multiples. There could be 4 or 5 work orders with different status, all sorts of information, and we can control how verbose some of this information is and how it's formatted if we want it to be more structured and less like a paragraph. So there's a lot that can be configured. Additionally, our work orders are totally custom. So this work order that exists here is a custom table that was added onto this app. It wasn't part of the out-of-the-box stuff. And if I drive into this, we'll see across the top of the work order, I'll also get a summary across the top here as well. So the work order summary, which if you're a developer or old school, you could see up here in the URL PT_work order, that PT_, that's Planet. That means it's totally custom. That's how I know. But this summary here and that summary rolling up on the actual case itself, those are features that were extended and layered in. I'm going to show you really quick how that was done on this specific application, but there's other features that are similar that can be easily configured inside of these applications that don't require a deep knowledge of AI agent building, that don't require a whole lot of the bigger lift that you'll eventually hopefully get into with Copilot Studio and Copilot agents. But if I come into the Copilot Service Admin Center and let me come down into productivity here, we'll see there's a whole summary section. And if I click the Manage button, this gives me the forms to control and manage those summaries that we were just looking at. And so you'll see the PT_work order that I called out earlier as a custom table. That's been created here and how we define that summary. And this is like a little wizard. If I wanted to, let me edit that one. I'll show you real quick. Cancel. Just grab this guy and hit edit. So this is like a wizard, like old school installing software in the 90s. You just go through and click next, and you can kind of generate. And this is where you choose if it's a paragraph or if you want it structured, and then you can save that. That gives you the work order summary for the work orders. And if you want to add that into the case like we did, you have your dedicated case summaries here, because this is for dynamics for customer engagement. And you can check this to turn on the case summaries, come into manage data. This is going to look like the exact same wizard where we set up the work order. And we got to do the work order for it first, because in here, we're going to select to include the related records. And then we're choosing work order for cases. This name, work order for cases, is what I wrote here when I gave it the name. So it's really just linking these two things, and that's it. As long as the environment's turned on for AI and the Microsoft tenant is enabled for AI, once you have these set up and enabled, then you should start to see your case summaries, and you can go and enhance these further. You can add on other related information, and you could create, if you had 4 or 5 different tables like equipment and crews and time shifts and anything else that might be related that you want to roll up, you can create a summary of summaries and kind of attach that too if you wanted to get a little deep with it. So this is my very fast. I think we're recording too, so you can rewatch. And I'm available if you have questions about any of this after our demo today. You can reach back out to the team here, and I'll try to answer those as well. But this is how you can add in that cool feature and get those case summaries right in your Dynamics 365 customer engagement app, and also leverage any kind of customizations and how that application might have grown over the years. If you've had an older one, maybe you do have work orders and SLAs and other kind of information you want rolled up there for someone to have at a glance. That's how you can do that. I'm going to drop back in and show you that summary one more time. And then before I stop sharing my screen, I have a little bit of a bonus demo to speak to about things you can do today, regardless of your AI position, where you're at as an organization in terms of your Microsoft tenant and your Power Platform environment. I got a little preparation and kind of possible homework that you can do that'll put you in a really great position for when you're starting to build agents and agent functionality in the future. I went into the wrong section here. I'm sorry. I'm going to drop back into the. I did it twice. I'm sorry. Here we go. This is where I'm trying to go. Boom. All right, let me drop back into that case. So what I was just showing, the configuration, just to tie it all together last time here before we move on, that's what generates this case summary that we see here with that related work order summary that happens in real time as the record populates. And this still grabs what happens. So we'll see in activities that somebody called Diane, that's made up. I don't know anybody named Diane. I recorded an outbound call a while ago. So that's kind of what's happening on the summary here. Okay. What I want to move on to next is this really awesome whiteboard of 4 different Power Automate flows, essentially. And what I want to show today, so this is a different topic here than what we were just showing. This is something that you could do today in your organization, regardless of where you're at with Copilot Studio, with agents, and that sort of thing. If you're using Power Automate. So you might have existing Power Automates that you and your org has built over the last 9 years or so. I think Power Automate came out in 2017. And a lot of those fire off of a trigger. So this is probably what you most likely have, is something similar to this in your organization today. And that is where an email might come to a mailbox, or a SharePoint list item gets updated, or a record in the Dataverse is manipulated for some reason. Those are all triggers. And then after that, there's probably some sort of logic that happens, and a process, and maybe some updates and things. And then, a result. Maybe it just succeeds and, the record does what it does, or maybe it notifies somebody or does something afterwards. What you can do is take these bits out and move those into a manually triggered flow that's set to respond to a flow in its final action that it has. So the trigger is a manual trigger, and then the final action is respond to a flow. This is now considered to be a child flow, and it can be called from other Power Automate flows. You might have done this already. You might already know what child flows are and have built that. But if you haven't, you can encapsulate and kind of pull this logic out from here and kind of create a dedicated process, or decouple it from the trigger. And when you do that, you create almost a reusable flow now that can be used in multiple different areas. So you can take that child flow and you put it back into where your trigger was. So this is essentially, this is the same flow as this, except for we've put the child in place. So we've created this little child flow, and now we have a child flow here, and we have our original flow. What this does is it sets you up in the future to be able to reuse that flow again in any agents that might want to perform that same action. And so let's say that you're an organization, you have membership applications that come in and there's an approval process that somebody can run and they hit an approval and that triggers off a bunch of stuff. And that approval starts in the Dataverse when they say submit for approval and change the record that way. Well, you take all that logic and put it into a child flow, and then you put it back into where that trigger is, and it'll still operate just as it did today and go through that approval process. But now, a month from now, 2 weeks from now, tomorrow, a year from now, you're building an agent, and you want that agent to be able to trigger off that approval process. I send in an application number and say, approve this application. Well, in instructions, you can instruct the agent to call an agent flow or a skill, and then you can just reference that child flow. And that looks like this in Copilot Studio. So this is where I'd be able to choose my flow. I don't have any in this environment, but this is where I'd be able to reference that child flow at if it existed already. And so essentially the agent would call this flow on some circumstance from a topic or from an instruction set, and then it can run that child flow here. So there's a little bit of a little bonus thing that I wanted to talk about that I was telling Ken and Mike about this morning, that this can be really beneficial to kind of decouple logic and processes out of existing Power Automates, create those child flows, and then you'll have a toolbox that's ready for when you're building out agents and you want to introduce that same useful functionality in the future in your organization. You kind of have it at your fingertips there. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I think we can take it back to the slide deck for my last little bit here. Unfortunately, my portal was kind of breaking down, so we're doing the cooking show today with some screenshots. But one thing I also want to talk about is portal agents for Power Pages. And so it might be, you might already have an agent on your Power Pages site. You might have a Power Pages site and be thinking about putting an agent there. I saw in the poll that we had a lot of people responding that they want to use agents and AI to help customers and constituents and users answer information, find things, and get knowledge. A great way to do that is to add an agent to your Power Pages site, and then you can reference the site itself as a knowledge source. That's kind of like a first step, maybe, to get the agent up and working and to be able to kind of expand it out. And maybe in the future, you can curate knowledge into a dedicated, maybe SharePoint knowledge base. And that way the agent really is hitting topics and answering questions exactly the way you want. And you know where to go if you need to update some of that knowledge. Once the agent is in Power Pages, though, and been published onto the site, you can have the Power Pages agent use the authentication of Power Pages. And by configuring the agent to use the Power Pages authentication, you'll have the full context of the user when they're logged into the website. So if they want to create a new case or update or find out information about their existing records, the agent will obey the table permissions that you've already defined and for your Power Pages site, and it can serve that information up to the user once the agent's been configured to retrieve those records. Also, the agent can be configured to populate forms. So you think about any kind of form might be on the website, a contact us form, maybe it's case management where they can open cases or edit existing cases that they have, and that kind of knowledge. That's all available with the agent that's on the Power Pages portal. And there's a new feature that's in preview that's coming out very soon that allows you to automatically wire the agent up for your forms. And that'll be on the next slide. If we can go one slide down the road here. So this is behind the scenes of a Power Pages site. If you've never seen this before, this is the page designer when you're making changes or adding forms or editing the Power Pages site. And one new button that's coming out, it's not fully out yet everywhere, not in GCC. This is in preview and commercial right now, but it's coming out very soon, is this agent button. And so you can go to any basic form that already exists on your Power Pages site. And if you go to the agent button after you select the form, you can automatically connect the agent to be able to populate and fill that form out from any page of the site. So for this example here, when I click the agent button up here, I was able to take the open a new case form, connect it to the Power Pages agent, and then from any page on the site, if I'm logged in as a user, I can say, I want to open a new case. And the agent will automatically start to collect all the information that's required on this form and then submit the case automatically. And so this takes a lot of the work out of going through all the existing forms you might have and trying to build them all out in Copilot Studio agents. With this new feature, you can configure your forms directly to the agent, essentially at the click of a button. It's a pretty cool feature.
That's pretty awesome, Jimmy. So the theme that I just heard between three different things that you just rattled off really quickly was, for the case manager, right? They can get summaries immediately, quick. They can summarize all their tickets so they can kind of like answer the questions quickly on the fly. So that summary thing for the case manager is definitely cool. For the developer, reusable code, right? So that's awesome. And then for the end user, saving time interacting with a portal site or a Power Pages site because it already knows who you are and knows how to tailor the answers to you and can reference all your existing information about you. So, I mean, everything's about saving time, and that's exactly what this is all doing here.
Yep.
Pretty cool stuff. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
All right. So we got another question in the chat window. We'll start looking at that, and we'll get to it in another slide here. We're going to just take a quick poll here. We'd love to know what you'd like us to cover on one of our future cloud office hours. So please, these are anonymous. We'd love to hear what's most interest to you. Don't know if we have the right audience for some of these answers, but certainly if you're interested in one of these topics, please let us know what you're interested in so we can kind of schedule it in advance for the next few months down the road here. So let's go ahead and get to questions. We had a couple questions come in first. So I want to make sure we answer these first. So first and foremost, first question we had that came in was, how can we leverage AI for training? How can we use AI to modernize a training system? I think, Mike, you're going to talk about this one, right?
Yeah, sure am. Here we go. Getting my cheat sheet. So yeah, as far as training, I mean, I was kind of thinking of training in a couple different ways, right? This may be training like internally. Maybe you have a new hire and there's like an onboarding process and they're going to have questions around, well, how do I get my benefit information and how do I request time off? Or cybersecurity training or any number of trainings that you may have internally that literally everybody has a need for. And then you may have skills-based training, right? So I'm a developer. Maybe the training is guided directly to what I'm developing, and it's not like a 40-minute a 40-minute video I have to sit there and watch. It's more interactive that I can ask questions and get the answers. But training may also be for external users. It may be your constituents or your customers, right? Somebody like a town, say for example, a city, and people move in, people move out. I moved into the town. I just want to know, when's my trash and recycle day? All right. And traditionally, that's a phone call. Nowadays, it's usually through a 311 system, but these are questions that can be answered very quickly. And again, that first poll question was still at like 50%, how to answer questions. I see that a lot. So training can be a lot of different things. I think to take it a little bit further than that, if the question comes down to like an actual learning management system, if you have a separate learning management system, I would probably start taking a look there to see, what are you trying to accomplish with that? And is there already a Power Platform connector available so you don't have to develop an integration? And what does that look like? What are you really trying to pull out of that training data? So a lot of different thoughts on training, and the different topics and who the people are. Hopefully that answered the question. I think those are definitely some places that you could start using AI in a training capacity.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
For the next question, I'm going to go ahead and bring over a document that's called the Business Application Feature Parity Document. We had a lot of questions about, will you go over the limitations in GCC? What is the roadmap for GCC High and Power Platform and those kind of things? This document gets updated from time to time. We did put a link at the end of the presentation for this. This was last updated in May, but I want to scroll all the way down to the very last page because this is where it really talks about some of the AI features and Copilot in general here. So as you can see, what's available. If it's not, obviously commercial, it's available all there, right? But for GCC High, and DoD, what's available, what's not available, broken down by different topic of what's in AI and Power Platform applications. So definitely take a look at this, and hopefully it'll answer most of your questions. So we had a question about what can AI, not Copilot, be used in GCC High? I would say we probably want to get Matt Nevins to give you a call back on that one, but we would probably be talking about something like Azure Foundry on that, not so much Copilot Studio. So let's get, we'll do a follow-up call. We'll get Matt Nevins to give you a call back and he can talk to you about what's going on there in GCC High. We had another question, again, very complicated question about our bottleneck is integrating multiple vendors with MCP keys that are actively blocked by IT and APIs with expensive usage-based token pricing. Would also like to hear about workarounds building deliverables the same way Claude can. So I think that's another question that we probably want to take offline, and we'll contact you directly about those. Those are the questions. We had one other question in the chat window. I don't know if Jimmy or Michael, if you have an answer for that, but if not, we can certainly take it offline and get back to you on that one as well. About, are there any workarounds on PDF, Word, PowerPoint, Excel functionality similar to Claude in the GCC High tenant? Maybe utilizing Azure Container Apps with Python scripts from GitHub. Very specific questions here. Any thoughts on that, or do we need to take that one offline?
The only thing is it reading or generating the files, I guess I'd have a follow-up question where we need to know if it's generating those files like PDF, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, or if it's reading and extracting out of those. For the extraction, there's AI Builder, which can be dovetailed into flows, and those credits and how the credits are worked or provisioned for AI Builder changes on September 1st in a few days. There's research to be done on that if it's processing the files. If it's generating the files, there's a new harness. Okay, generating. There's a new harness that's coming out. It's in general availability and commercial, but some environments do not have it and some do. And the new harness is for Copilot Studio. And so it's called the GitHub harness or GitHub Copilot harness, I believe. And this one does allow the generation of files. It's a totally new harness. It doesn't use topics, but you still author the agent through Copilot Studio, and it still makes use of tools and skills and larger use of instructions. If we can get the info or for Patrick there, I can send a follow-up link that kind of breaks down those harnesses and what's coming in the future with that. It does do document generation, so it might be compelling to look into that because it was just announced, I think, at the beginning of this month. So moving target there.
Okay. One last question, then we'll kind of move on because we're getting kind of late here. So one of the questions is how do customers get started trying to modernize their apps? Very open-ended question. Obviously, we have this question all the time. Typically you get the back end of the app set up first, right? So you have to decide, is it a Power Platform app or Power Apps there? Is it Dynamics? Is it going to use any of the Dynamics capabilities? If so, you have to do that right up front. Otherwise, it's too late. Then the next phase, typically once that back end is all set up and you've got it all working, then you start talking about portals and how do you bring the external users or your constituents in here to work with that app. Then the third phase, obviously, is what Jimmy showed today, the conversational agent, right? Add that on top of the portal. So that's kind of the natural progression from a roadmap perspective. If you want more information about that, certainly take advantage of, and this is what I'm queuing up for here. Jason, you want to talk about our 3 free, no cost, no sales type of workshops that we have available for folks on Power Platform?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm excited to at least tell you about it. If you're not familiar with the You Already Own It program, I just want to take a really quick moment and talk about it. This Cloud Office webinar is part of the You Already Own It program, but we also offer all of these one-on-one benefit sessions that you see on the screen. This is a list of all of them, and there's no cost, there's no contract, there's no catch, there's no obligation whatsoever. It's simply a way to get more value, for you to get more value out of Microsoft technologies that you're already paying for, with experts leading it and helping you across things like cloud strategy, AI Copilot, Power Platform, Azure data modernization, and security and compliance. If you haven't onboarded, and simply all that onboarding meeting it's just a 30-minute meeting. We go over all of these sessions and the benefits of the program. I really encourage you to be part of that or to see that. I'll drop a link in the chat so you can actually either email me or there's a booking link. You can book a 30-minute meeting. If you've already onboarded, any one of these sessions are available to you. All you have to do is you can email me or I'll drop in the program email And it's a great way to take advantage of the amazing sessions that we offer. And as Ken mentioned, those three that are highlighted there may be most relevant to you, since this is the topic we're talking about, Power Platform enablement. Again, those are sessions. They're free, and we offer to them if you would like. I will drop that information in the chat. Back to you, Ken.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. And as promised, we always give you some helpful links. We talked about some of these, but the first two are two of the blogs that we've written. The first one is the one that just went out like a week ago, talking about some use cases for how to AI enabling your and modernize your apps. The second one was back in January. I still think it's a great blog to read. And then we talked about the feature parity document that I mentioned. This points to the download place on Microsoft, so you always get the latest one. And then lastly, I think obviously Michael mentioned this about the Center of Excellence transition, about what's going on there, and how some of the feature functionality has moved over to the Power Platform Admin Center. So definitely check out those links. Our next Cloud Office Hours is going to be on September 24th at 1 o'clock. They're usually on the fourth Thursday of the month. We're going to be talking about Defender for Cloud Apps. And I think this is a great topic right now, especially how you can bring this to the table, especially when everyone's implementing and trying to protect AI. Defender for Cloud Apps is a great tool in your toolbox if you have it available to you, to start using it to enforce those sanctioned and unsanctioned AI tools that your organization may or may not want to use. So definitely tune in next month, the September 24th, 1 o'clock. Save the date. It's going to be a great conversation. We'd love to know how we did today. By all means, please just shoot us a quick survey. They're going to put it up in a second here from 1 to 5. Very useful, helpful, or 1 not useful at all. We'd love to hear your feedback. So let me leave you with this. Modernization isn't the same thing as replacement, right? It's the discipline of asking whether the technology already owned can solve today's problems in the simplest and most effective way. So take an inventory of your current Dynamics Power Apps and automate power flows, and see if it makes sense to move them to the next level by adding Power Page access to collect data from your external parties, and maybe even adding an agent to make your apps more self-serve, to cut down on some of the manual aspects of data collections and answering customer inquiries. The good thing is you don't have to figure it out on your own. If you need any help or on how to get started, please reach out to your account team or Kim Snyder from the You Already Own It program to schedule your no-cost workshops that we just mentioned on Power Platform Fundamentals, Deep Dive, or Licensing Workshop, and we'll get you well on your way. That is a wrap. We're so glad that you joined us today. Thank you, Michael, Jimmy, and Wendy, for joining us, and especially thank you all of you for joining us and spending the afternoon with us. We'll see you all next month.